Officer James Carter had been on the force for over a decade, but nothing could have prepared him for the moment that would change his life forever. It was a cold autumn evening and James was finishing his shift. As he walked toward his patrol car parked outside the precinct, he noticed something unusual. A small, scruffy puppy standing near the entrance. The little creature was thin, its fur matted and dirty. It shivered in the crisp night air, its wide brown eyes locked onto James. At first he thought the puppy might belong to someone nearby. He glanced around, expecting an owner to appear, but no one came. Shrugging, James climbed into his car. But as soon as he started the engine and began pulling away, the puppy did something unexpected. It started running after him. James slowed down, his brows furrowing. The tiny dog struggled to keep up, its small paws pattering against the pavement. It stumbled, fell, then scrambled back up, determined to stay close. His heart clenched. "All right, buddy." He stepped out, and the puppy immediately ran to him, nuzzling his boots as if begging him not to leave. Kneeling, James reached out, letting the little dog sniff his hand before gently scratching behind its ear. "Where did you come from, huh?" The puppy whined and looked up at him, almost as if trying to tell him something. Something wasn't right. James sighed and glanced at the precinct. He could take the pup to the shelter in the morning, but something inside him hesitated. He had seen stray dogs before, but none had followed him so desperately. "All right, let's figure this out." James carried the puppy into his car and placed it on the passenger seat. It curled up immediately, exhausted from chasing him. He reached out and carefully felt around its tiny neck, realizing it had a worn-out collar. It had an old tag, barely readable, but one thing caught his attention: a name. "Charlie, all right, Charlie, let's find out where you belong." Instead of heading home, James decided to take a detour. He drove slowly through the neighborhood near the precinct, hoping to find someone searching for a missing dog. As he did, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to this than a lost puppy. Then he noticed something. Charlie suddenly perked up, his ears twitching. As they passed a narrow alleyway, the puppy let out a sharp yelp, pressing its tiny paws against the window. James hit the brakes. Looking into the alley, he saw a dimly lit back street with old buildings, abandoned cars, and something moving. Squinting, James realized it wasn't just trash rustling in the wind. Someone was there. Charlie whimpered again. James's instincts kicked in. He reached for his flashlight and stepped out of the car, keeping a cautious grip on his holster. As he walked closer, he heard soft cries, weak, barely audible. Then he saw her. A little girl, no older than 6, huddled between 2 dumpsters, her small frame wrapped in a thin, tattered blanket. She shivered, clutching her arms. James's heart pounded. "James, VO. Hey, sweetheart, are you all right?" The girl flinched but didn't run. Charlie, now restless in the car, barked anxiously. James turned, opened the door, and the puppy bolted toward the child. To his shock, the moment the puppy reached her, she burst into tears, wrapping her tiny arms around him. James swallowed hard. "James, VO. You know this pup?" Little girl, VO. My daddy said he'd come back. He told me to stay, but he never came." James clenched his jaw, his hands curling into fists. It didn't take long for the full story to unfold. The girl's father had lost his home, and with no one to turn to, he had tried to find a shelter for his daughter. He told her to wait with Charlie, promising to return, but days had passed, and no one came. Charlie, small as he was, had refused to leave her side, but when food ran out, he must have sensed he needed help. That's why he followed James. That's why he ran after him. The realization hit James like a punch to the gut. This little dog had just saved a life. James quickly wrapped the girl in his jacket and radioed for assistance. The moment he lifted her into his arms, she whispered, "Charlie didn't leave me." "No, he didn't. He's a hero." As they arrived at the hospital for a checkup, James held the puppy close, stroking its small head. He knew then that Charlie wasn't just any stray. He was a guardian, a protector, a best friend, and he had just found his new home.